Hi, my name is Cynthia. Today I'm going to give you my top 10 tips concerning parrots. Specifically parrots that I've had in the past, cockatoos. I want to talk to you a little bit about cockatoos in the wild. In the wild in Australia, they are pests and they are destroyed by farmers, which I don't blame them in one regard because they come in large flocks, 40, 50 at a time, and come in and eat on the crops of the farms. Now, if you're a farmer and you depend on those crops for a living, you are obviously very mad, and some of them do some terrible things to the parrots. I've seen some terrible videos where pitchforks are used, and that I don't condone. I understand, again, them being angry about it, but there's seems to me better ways to do it. But in Australia and in the world, they are now being on the endangered list because of this. And pets need to be, cockatoos need to be bred in homes now throughout the world to keep them viable. I'm going to talk about 3 specifically. I started out with cockatoos, which I love those little guys. But if you're into wanting a larger bird, you're going to move up into cockatoos from cockatoos. And I moved into an umbrella. Umbrellas are wonderful parrots. I had one and I eventually sold him, or her I should say, because I felt I wanted an even bigger parrot. And I wanted her to go to a very good home, which she ended up going to a very loving home. Umbrellas are found in Indonesia. They lived in woodlands, and they live on fruits and veggies in the wild. Now, they are very gentle parrots. If you ever want a very gentle parrot, cockatoo umbrella is wonderful. The problem with them are they're very affectionate and they want to be held or be around you all the time. You need to be able to spend at least 2 hours a day with them. Ideally, holding them, cuddling them, and enjoying them, which I love my cockatoo and umbrella. And again, I found a very good home for her where she was with kids that could handle her a lot more than I could. I eventually grew up to a different bird. Now, umbrellas can talk a little bit, and they can be you can do tricks with them, and they do talk a little bit, but they're not the most vocal of the cockatoos. Let's go to the next one, the largest one. Well, I shouldn't say the largest, but the largest white one. It's a mollucan, and they are again from Indonesia. They are one of the larger ones. They can live to be 70, actually, even older. But on the average, they live to be 40. Just like human beings, we don't all live to be 100. We have different lifespans, and so do cockatoos. On the average, maybe 40 years. So when you get one, be sure that you have somebody in mind to keep them if you're older when you get them. If you're younger, then they will grow with you and you can enjoy them most of your life. Mollucans are the most beautiful, like pink color to them, salmon colored. By the way, cockatoos, their crests are different. The umbrellas go up and some of them go back. So you have to, when you look at different ones, you find out which one is attractive to you. I found the Mollucans to be superbly beautiful, loving, gentle parrot. Now, with all cockatoos, you need to find out whether they're male or female, because that does make a difference in their personalities. By the way, that's one of my cockatoos in the background. But if you get a mollucan, I would suggest getting a female if you can. Now, you can't always tell when you buy them whether they're male or female, especially if they're babies. You can get blood tests to tell you that, and I would strongly suggest if you can do that, get it. because it does, again, make a difference in their personality. The males tend to be a little bit more aggressive than the females. Females are much more gentle. And I had a friend who had bought one after I got my mollucan. She wanted to get one, and she got one, and it ended up being a male, and it became very loud and aggressive down the road. Now, whether that was something she did with it, I don't know. My female was the most loving parrot you could ever want. And she died 3 years ago, and I still miss her today. And I wouldn't hesitate to get another mollucan. There again, in Indonesia, they're not as aggressive in the wild with farmers as the sulfur-crested, which we'll talk to about in a little while. But they are, again, one of the most spectacular ones, and again, very loving, and you need to be able to spend at least 2 hours a day with them again. Now, mollucans tend to have a problem with picking. If you do, when you first get a parrot, a lot of times you spend a lot more time with them than you should. You should measure your time with your parrot that you know you can give them in the future. And if you do that, then they won't expect any more. And mollucans, when you first get them, you want to hold them all the time because they're so soft and cuddly. And if you can't give that attention to them, they can, down the road, turn to picking themselves. And if you get online, you'll find pictures where they're totally bare, no feathers on them whatsoever, because they picked every single feather off of them. And they don't grow back. Those feathers don't grow back. And so if you want to keep your parrot beautiful, spend time with them that you know you can spend time in the future with them. And keep them very busy with toys and keep them happy. They're very intelligent birds. Now, mollucans can be loud, but they're not one of the loudest ones, that's for sure. But they can be taught tricks, and they're silly, and I love them dearly, and I wouldn't, again, hesitate to buy another mollucan down the road. And the next one I want to talk to you about is sulfur-crested. Now, you can get 3 different kinds of sulfur-crested, actually 4, but you can get the lesser sulfur-crested, the medium, the greater, and then there's tritons. The sulfur-crested are basically all white, and they have yellow underneath their feathers and their crest. And I find they can be aggressive. At least mine is. Mine is a male again. I don't have a female. I wish I would have known better. But again, you don't know when you buy them whether they're male or female unless you get them tested. And at the time when I got mine, I call him Tarzan. And that's for a reason, because he's very loud. Once in a while, if you've heard any of my other videos, you've heard him in the background. He can be very loud, but I'm telling you, his personality makes up for it. He plays, he can do tricks, he can sing, he can talk, he barks like my dog. He's very personable. It's something that you need to spend time with too. If you spend time with him or her on a regular basis, at least 2 hours a day, you'll keep him very tame and he won't be very aggressive at all. And I, unfortunately, wasn't able to spend that much time with Tarzi. And he's still tame, but not like my mollucan, Molly, which I don't care how often I held her. She was tame and she never bit anybody. Tarzi can bite, not real bad, but he can bite. But he's more of a bird to have around and make you laugh, but he's loud. Now, sulfur-crested are one of those birds that in the wild in Australia, they are considered pests, and the farmers do kill them. So if you get them, hopefully they're being bred in you can't import them anymore because they're endangered, because people are killing them because of the damage they do. And there are pictures of them getting on cars and destroying people's windshield wipers. I mean, all sorts of things they do to cars and items. But if you have them as a pet, they're not that destructive. Although you have to give them a lot of toys to keep them busy. And Tarzi, loves to destroy boxes, and I'll have videos of him and some shorts in the future where you can see him destroying boxes, which he adores doing. Now, they cost maybe about $1,000, $1,500. Mollucans are a little more expensive, about $2,000. And the umbrellas probably you can get for $600, $2,000. I would suggest getting them when they're babies if you can, because it's easy to get them more attached to you. And I have said in other videos, don't get two of them, because if you get two in a cage, they won't stay tame very long. Now, mollucans need a very large cage. And if you don't have room for that, don't get a mollucan. They need the biggest cage you can afford to get. The sulfur-crested, Tarzan doesn't need a big cage, but he has a big cage and he uses every inch of it playing and hanging and flying all over the place. My umbrella, she needed a medium-sized cage because I spent a lot of time outside with her, but they need to be able to spread their wings out. That's how you can tell whether the cage is big enough for them. If they can spread their wings out, it's a big enough cage for them. And cages can be expensive, but again, if you spend the money and you have a bird for 40 years, it's not that expensive over 40 years. You can start out with a little less expensive cage and work up to a larger one. Or like I like the coated ones. But I would suggest buying the best one you can the first time you can, and you won't have to keep replacing it. So those are some of my ideas about cockatoos that I've had in the past, and I still have some. And of them all, I regret selling my umbrella. I wish I kept her because she was perfect size and she was just as gentle as can be, but I know she went to a good home. And my mollucan, she died 3 years ago and I miss her terribly. Molly was someone that I held every single night while I was watching TV, and she adored being on me. That's the thing with cockatoos. They want to be attached to you. If they could be part of your arm or shoulder, they would be, and they would never leave. So it's kind of hard to put them back in their cage, but they love you and you love them too. Hopefully this gave you some good ideas about cockatoos. And there's other ones. There's palm cockatoos that are very expensive and hard to find, and other cockatoos down the road, but those are the three that I know personally and I had, and I love them and they're dear to my heart, and hopefully they will be to you too. Hopefully I gave you some good ideas. If I did, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I have other parrots I'm going to be talking about in the future, and I try to download a video every Monday, new one every Monday, so come back and visit with me, okay? Thank you for coming. Bye now.